Alright guys, another Jaeger video. I know everyone loves these things, so we'll keep on doing them. We have tens of views. So, at some point through the life of that 1925 Jaeger, they removed the grease cups that are used originally to grease the bearings and put grease zerks. Alright, you guys sick of seeing this thing yet? I didn't think so. So, what we had, they had a grease zerk in here for the crank. There was a grease zerk in here for the governor, and then both of these grease zerk. So I've got a couple different things I've saved over the years because dumb schmucks never throw anything away. But this doesn't go into that hole, so it's obviously not the original one. But if you look at it, I think it'll blend in decent. Picked up some brass fittings to try to adapt from the smaller grease zerk size up to the grease cups that I have. So obviously they're not going to be original, but they are going to look original. So got those brass fittings back home. They had steel ones, galvanized steel ones, but these look to be a little more authentic looking. So what I have to do is I wire brush them on the grinder just to kind of scuff them up. And then I've got in this container, I was just hanging these in there. So I had this, just kind of melted a hole in the top of this piece of wire. This bottom one here got a little bit greener than I'd like. I just wanted it to be a little bit of a tarnished look. So what I did was I put white vinegar in here along with some like 4 or 5 shakes of just table salt. Threw it in the microwave, which this is not a microwave safe vitamin container apparently. Got a little hot. But if you can see, it's got all this droplets, all these condensation on the inside of here. And I assume that got all over these parts as well, just hanging in there. So, gonna wash these up, dry them off, and then I think they're corroded enough to look at least of the vintage. So we'll clean those up, bring them out to the shop, and I'll show you what I'm babbling about here. And over here we have kind of a unique deal where the grease cups that I have are too close to this thing. So the adapter I had to make, I took, this used to have a hex on it. Let me get this, hold on, let me get you guys focused in here. Whoop. So this adapter here used to have a hex on it. Not like a witch's hex, but like a wrench hex on it. So now I think, and I'm going to have to try it out, if I get this in here, it was the hex part that was really close to this flyweight. So I think now I'm going to be fine. I just stuck it in a drill and took it out to my grinder, so it's not really super concentric, but I think it'll be good enough. Give it that authentic look. I think, see, we have enough space there now, I think. One side was closer than the other. Let me see what the other, yeah, I think this one here was the closer one. A little bit of compression there. So, we'll put that back together. Show you guys what it looks like. We're going to try to go period correct on this thing. Like I said, I got the bushings I was showing you guys in there. So they need to get a little more corroded before it starts to look, you know, like it was there for a long time. But with the caps on here, I'll show you how those things work in a minute. I mean, it looks from this far away, looks good. The thing that I ran into was this one down here. See how close it is to that flyweight? Well, that was the issue with anything besides, you know, I had a couple of these different grease cups. When I machined that using my drill and the grinder, like you guys have seen me do before, it's a little bit oblong, which worked out well because I was able to turn it enough to just clear the weights. So I think we're really good now. That might be the one that's farther. Let's get to the closer one. Oh, I'll show you what the difference is. When this thing starts moving and you get a little bit of the gear train thrusting on here, let me see if I can push this over. That's where we get really close. So it's just that it's clearing right now. But anyway, so I think that'll work fine. If it doesn't clear the first time, it'll clear the next time. So now to get really authentic on these things, I'll show you how these grease cups work. Normally you just take your grease gun and you squirt grease into your zerk in there. But if you want to see, and they're all about the same. So I cleaned these up, took the old cruddy grease that was out of them, so I can put new cruddy grease in. So I've got them all cleaned up good enough. And what happens is you fill these up with grease, and as you screw this down, it forces it into the bearings. So I've actually been lucky enough to have this G403 Grease Automotive and Artillery bucket o' grease. Looks like it's been taken well care of all these years. So just gonna go into that with my putty knife, scoop some out and put it in the little container here. So we'll see how this works. Kind of scoop out a glob and just fill this cup up. Oops, yip, 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 whoop. How's that? So I'll do that a couple times until this cup is mostly full. There you go, focus. And then we'll be off to the races with the engine grease here. I'm sure this is some sort of salvage from the local recycling center. Someone was probably throwing that out. So once you get that full, or fullish, then you come over here, and then you can put it on. You get rid of this putty knife. Just put it right there, and put this on. So now this is the first time. We might have to give it a couple up and downs. Now I feel like some resistance here. So we might see, I hear it filling up somewhere. I don't know if we'll see grease come out of this thing or not. I put in, had regular, you know, like modern grease in there before. It's got a lot of resistance, like it's, let's see what we got. I don't see anything coming out. But it's got a lot of, fill up all the tubes I put on there and all the other fun stuff. Yeah, it looks about typical. So I'll fill that back up again and screw it down a couple more times until we start to see some grease come out of the edges over here. And then I'll say that's probably good enough. I didn't have it, I just refilled it, but there's a little bit of grease coming out right there. That's kind of what you want to see when you screw these down. I just put a little more grease in there. When you screw these down, so you start seeing that grease down there move. That's when you know you've got enough down into the system here. So I'm gonna say that's good for both of these. There's will be grease flying everywhere. That's coming out over here too, you can see. So I can probably take some of that and throw that in the garbage. But yeah, that's how they work. Screw them down right before you start it. This one here isn't the right one for this machine, but I had to get one that was small enough to fit between the crank throws here. So that's going to be good enough. It's every time I have to like refill that because it's not, you know, there's not a lot of capacity there. There's supposed to be a little spring-loaded deal that sits in here, but I don't have that. Might find one someday. Don't have one in the junk pile now. So that's the lubrication. We did the top oiler and the grease cups now. All right, we'll try starting it here. See if we can get these flywheels cleaned up a little bit. So I'll kind of show you the fuel filling procedure. Important to spill as much on the ground as possible. Probably enough to get her going. Now I think I closed the valve on the bottom, so there's some water in here. Supposed to just have enough in there to cover the cylinder. And you're supposed to use this crank, which hooks on the key. Cranks that way. I don't like using that because my arm might get hurt. So we'll close this. stuff. I take steel wool, hold it on here. It's kind of rusty stuff. Should clear off a lot of the rust that's on these flywheels. I feel like getting a lot smoother. Pretty warm too. Amazing how friction will do that. We'll just take a look at what that looks like. We got a little bit of a leak around the spark plug here. I might have to tighten that down some. It doesn't look too bad. This is what it looked like before. So I think I'll just maybe put a little bit of that, what do you call it? Rust remover, maybe a little bit of vinegar or something, maybe, just to get that really shined up, or some oil. So that's the plan. Finish it up.